Hello, and welcome to Brendan's Car Talk for Monday, January 31st, 2022. I think this is like 8 weeks since I've done them publicly, so keeping that consistent. There was 1 week that it didn't go up publicly for a while, but 1 week out of 8 weeks isn't too bad. As always, though, if you're on the Patreon, patreon.com/BrendanC, ding, plug, you got all of them, and you also get it as a podcast. And a special thanks for anyone in the meal tier and higher. You get a shout out. I'm recording this at like 2 a.m. I'm doing laundry. I'm waiting for that. But special shout out to Gimpy, Tommy Richardson, Uncle Bobby B, Morgan and Mama Thomas, Rob Arbick, and Brian Watson, the Pizza Man. This week we banged out a bunch of the Zoom calls for the meal tier and higher. We did a Monday night game night. We played Jackbox. I did a private Zoom call of a class I was coaching at Crossbody. If you are in the Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge area, every Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. I am coaching a class. Restrictions are opening up, so today, when you're watching this publicly, there's a lot less restrictions in Ontario. So Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, that area, if you're in London, whatever, come up. Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Let's get it in there. I actually have keys for the building. I have keys to a church, basically. That's ridiculous. It was cool the first few times I was locking up like a church and turn the lights off. Kind of cool. Opening up a church, pitch black, kind of fucking creepy. But I had that. I know the Pizza Man and Bobby stopped in Thursday. Thanks to Mama Thomas' recommendation. She has a thing for Lex Luger. We watched the Royal Rumble 1994. Very fun Rumble. This is also where Owen turns on Brett and Owen cuts the promo. That's why I kicked your leg out from your leg. Yeah, super fun night. And then last night, well, it's still weirdly Saturday for me-ish. Friday night, we did the promo contest. And the promo contest is, and I've talked about it a few times on Car Talks and such, it's a little stressful, I'll be honest. Gimpy asked me a couple months ago if I'd ever do this again. And for anyone who doesn't know, the promo contest is, for all the patrons, they're able to submit a 60-second wrestling-style promo. Like, Monday, January 31st at the Superdome, brother, I'm coming for you. You stole my girl. Like, that kind of promo and stuff. And it's one of those things where I have a bunch of my friends come on, formerly Kingdom James, Clay Wilson, John Greed, Wade Allen, Captain Dirty Beard, Travis Howie from Savage Media, doing great work. They come in and we judge and we vote for who we think has the promo, and it's promos going up against each other that are submitted, usually about 8 to 13 promos, and we keep a standings because the top 6 to 10, depending if people disqualify if they're not able to make it, we're going to have an obstacle course, and one grand prize winner will wrestle me in December, and 2 will be featured in a multi-man tag match, so they still get like a live out their dream moment of wrestling. And it's one of those things of pursuing something creative is so stressful, and you need to have a lot of patience, because what could take someone 20 years could take someone 20 months. What could take someone 5 months could take someone 5 days. Someone can get hurt the first day of wrestling training and live the rest of their life in a fucking wheelchair. Like, wrestling is dangerous, not weird. But then the art form of wrestling, like, it's predetermined winners, but it's stunt acting with some theatrics, like live theater. There's so much going into it. And with the promos, they're 60 seconds. Less is definitely more. Once you start cluttering it, you get distracted and stuff, and you lose the message. There's an art in simplicity. But there's a lot. I'm a wrestler. I'm a wrestling fan. And I see a lot in the world right now, which, by the way, like, I'm taking a bit of a social media break. So if you watch this means you subscribe to the YouTube channel. This means you're on the Patreon. And I appreciate you guys, because I'm not going to be sharing this, because I'm taking like a self-implied self-induced restriction from social media. So I'm not posting on social media right now. I'm not retweeting anything. I'm not sharing anything. I'm not posting anything. My stories, hard to post, Facebook's asset. I'm just staying out of it. Especially Ontario is crazy right now. I have my own personal stuff in life going on. Restrictions are kind of opening. I need to wrestle eventually. I've had thoughts of quitting wrestling and just pursuing like a different job, and I don't know. I'm a little lost, but there is some stuff that there's a lot of people feel like they need to stand for something, and I do believe you need to stand for morals and your character, but a lot of people have hard stances and they don't understand, like, agree to disagree, sure, but like it's a mindset thing. Like, if you don't believe in equality, or if you think someone has something you deserve, that's where you set yourself up for failure, because no one deserves anything in life. The fact that you're born, no matter the skin tone, because we're not Sims characters, we don't get to pick our skin tone. The fact that you're born, the fact that you are able to walk, the fact that you have 2 legs, the fact that you're not stuck in a wheelchair, the fact that you didn't die at 5 days old, the fact that you weren't abused by your parents, the fact that you know your parents or you don't know your parents. Everyone has their own struggles and their own story. And I posted this in one of the group chats, which was an earlier Patreon perk that I've taken away from a perk because it was just toxic. You can't, just because everyone likes or wants to support a certain entertainer, performer, in this case me, doesn't mean everyone's gonna get along. Like, I am non-religious, borderline anti-religious. I'll be honest, I don't believe religion serves a purpose in 2022, and I believe it stops your own growth, because you're not gonna live life for the day or seize the day or whatever because you are worried that something in the universe is stopping you. Like, I believe hard work will pay off. I don't think that means in 6 months. I don't think that means in 6 weeks. I don't think that means 6 years. I don't even think, like, if you're working hard for one thing, that's what's going to pay off. Like, it's going to be a whole nother thing you never thought of. Like, a magician can host a variety show. A wrestler can become a movie actor. An actor can become a comedian. A comedian could become a fucking author. Like, there's so many different spectrums of entertainment that you don't know where you're going to go. But I posted a little note on, like, comparisons and such. And if I can find the note I had, someone posted, like, the amount of people that AEW has released versus the amount of people WWE has released. And there were some problematic people that were released because of speaking out a couple years ago, which is a good thing. I'm not going to go against that. I'm not going to victim blame, especially in cases that are criminal acts or assault. But I'll just read what I wrote, because someone in the chat or in the comment section that's like, oh, these people thought it was a golden opportunity, but the owners of the company are booking themselves to the moon, etc., etc. And in any entertainment, like, so the benefit of 2022, like, I'm on Patreon, I'm doing this on YouTube. I do not have a contract with anyone. I do not have a network working for me. Like, if you want to be an actor right now, you can fucking... And you could have done it earlier on. Kevin Smith has done it. Fucking Sylvester Stallone did it with Rocky. Like, there was times that one-off people could do it, but now so many more people can do it. You don't need a... Because I don't think people fully understand that actors used to be like wrestlers nowadays. Like, they had studio contracts, and now I'm learning more about the porn industry and learning that there's contracts in porn and what websites you can work for and what independent stuff you can do. And then, of course, because it's the sex industry, escorting comes into it. And, like, now there's OnlyFans and Twitter and Reddit, and, like, it's wild. With stand-up comedy, like, yeah, you do open mic nights, all that stuff, but also you can have a podcast, you can be acting, you can be doing so much. There's radio show DJs. There's fucking news anchors. There's so many people. I'm so fascinated with entertainment in general. That's why whenever I talk about wrestling, I lean into magic and comedy and now porn. And it's just very interesting that entertainment is this thing. And if you work really fucking hard, you can do it yourself. We have Patreon now. We have OnlyFans. We have ways to make money outside of the system. And it's fucking hard, but the thing about entertainment is not everyone can be Tom Cruise. But there's a million Twitch streamers and shit like that that are low, but they're making a livable income or selling their bathwater and making a bunch of money, monetizing the creeps, which I'm always for. Don't be afraid of the creeps, monetize them, and then block them and report them. But this was specifically towards like AEW releases, and I'll just read it all out. But Tommy Dreamer talked about Santana and Ortiz leaving Impact on a House of Hardcore podcast episode a few years ago, and he mentioned 5 years of your contract length gives enough time for you to do everything you're capable of or accomplishing. Like, for instance, here in Ontario, we have Josh Alexander to look up to, who was listed top 10 in Sports Illustrated's best professional wrestlers in the world. Sports Illustrated, a real sports publication. Like, that's what's fucking dope about 2022 also. Like, yeah, we have dirt sheets. We have Dave Meltzer, WrestleZone. There's Post Wrestling. There's all these things. But now we have Sports Illustrated. We have The Athlete. We have all of these legitimate outlets that are covering wrestling now. Like, it's so fucking interesting of this bastard entertainment carny shit over here that's now being welcomed by the world because they saw how much money was made for TV deals, and now there's a number 2 wrestling company in North America. And if you know me as a wrestler, you know the thriving independent scene since 2015. Like, it's crazy. So Josh Alexander is a dude that he went into Impact Wrestling as a tag team with Ethan Page, who's now part of AEW, and started in the tag team, went to the X Division title, and beat Christian, a Canadian wrestling legend, for the Impact Heavyweight title. And that's what he's done in the last 3 years. When you're undeniable, like, that's the it factor. The it factor is being undeniable and connecting with the crowd. And especially for TV wrestling, you need someone to believe in you enough to offer you a contract. And there's multiple contracts in wrestling. Some will offer you $100 an appearance. Some will offer you a $50,000 downside guarantee for a developmental contract, and some will offer you $1 million a year plus expenses and shit covered. But that's where you understand your own worth, and sometimes you value yourself more than others, and it's that scary thing of putting a value on. I went through it last year with the Patreon. I have 3 levels. It's about $10, $25-ish, and $50 American. And those you basically pay for beverages for me, caffeine. Thank you. Cheers. $1 coffee still at A&W. A&W sponsor me. McDonald's iced coffees, please sponsor me. And by sponsor me, I just mean give me a gift card to buy caffeine. But you need someone to believe in you enough, and that's where, like, I'll continue this. In 2022, you can get over without being booked to get over. We have social media. The character doesn't stop between the hours of Monday Night Raw or AEW Dynamite or SmackDown. Like, between 8 to 10 p.m. isn't the only time you can get your character over. At one point, you could have used Twitch and such like that, but certain companies are limited that. There's levels to everything in life, especially in entertainment. Bare minimum doesn't get you to the top. It factor is connecting or being undeniable. And that means never phoning it in. Having quality matches against the best in the world, having quality matches against the worst wrestlers ever. Because just because a motherfucker has wrestled 15 years doesn't mean he's had 100 matches. This kid that wrestled 4 years has had 500 matches. And that's also the thing of, like, some veterans will look down at young guys just because they haven't put in the time, but being one of the younger guys, I've been doing this for 8 years next month. I understand. I'm not ignorant to the fact that I don't think our generation is like super soldiers like Captain America. We just have lower barriers of entry, which makes it easier to get better and get good quicker. We don't need to borrow a tape and find that tape on Buzz Sawyer. We can just go on Dailymotion, look it up. We can follow Twitter accounts that show moves and setups and different characters and entrances, and we can get inspirations because the barrier is so low. But also, with the barrier being so low, that means you have to work fucking harder than ever. And there is no right or wrong to... There's no checklist. It's not if you put in 10 hours in the gym, if you put in 10 hours on social media, if you put in 4 hours of sleep. Like, there's no checklist for it because everyone's path is different. The top of one mountain's the bottom of the next. I go, like, once again, I talk about this on daily podcasts every day. It's about 5 to 20 minutes, Monday to Friday. There'll be a song of the day, motivation, national holidays, such like that, little check-ins. And I mentioned, and I talk about this with, like, younger wrestlers all the time. 1 in 10 people say is a wrestling fan. Closeted wrestling fan, open wrestling fan, whatever. 1 in 100 want to actually wrestle. 1 in 1,000 go to a wrestling school. 1 in 10,000 actually have a match. 1 in 1,000,000 are full-time wrestlers. Because that whole 1 in 1,000,000, oh, they look at that as such a big number and a scary number. I break that down. There's 7.8 billion people in the world. That means 1 in 1,000,000 is really 1 in 7,800. You can be 1 in 7,800. That's a medium-sized fucking basketball hockey arena. Next time you're in an arena, look around and go, yeah, I am one of these people in this arena watching this basketball game, watching this hockey game, watching this wrestling show. Like, that's the crazy thing. But that's where it goes. The bottom of one mountain is the top of another one. Just because you do the bare minimum, just because you get the go-ahead to wrestle on shows, doesn't mean you're immediately good. Just because you practice a match with your buddy at training for 6 weeks and you wrestle once a month, that doesn't make you good. It is that consistency. It's that grind of wrestling 3 to 5 times a weekend. It's driving in a fucking car 10 hours one way, 12 hours the next day, not making it to a show, showing up late because of fucking weather or traffic or whatever. Like, those are the struggles no one talks about. Everyone jokes that they don't get paid to wrestle. The wrestling part's easy. They get paid for travel and sitting in the car. And people bring up the fact that, like, 2 of the worst things you could do for your body is sudden impacts like whiplash and staying in one spot for multiple hours. Pro wrestlers do fucking both. You can always, and I talked about this last week or the week before, you can always work harder. Figure out whatever your goals are. And if you're not there yet, that means there's something you're missing. If you want to be a YouTube creator, and you don't do at least 1 video a week, you know you need to do that. If you want to be a podcaster and you never record a podcast, how do you expect to be successful at that? And there's no problem in being a podcaster and you record 5 episodes a year. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is the mindset of saying you deserve Joe Rogan's $100 million Spotify deal. No. And just because you do a podcast doesn't mean you're great or your opinion is more important than someone else's. People say, like, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. And it's just those little things. And that's why self-awareness and self-critiquing is the only way for personal growth. Like, you need to have that. Because if you're not critiquing yourself, and that's where it comes in, having communities, having tribes, sometimes a friend needs to tell you that harsh reality because you're caught up in your own bullshit. And there's nothing wrong with being caught up in your own bullshit. You're living blindsided. You don't know what you look like. You hate the sound of your voice because it's not what you think it sounds like. And that's because, like, I'm looking at myself in the camera right now, so I know what I look like. But looking around, I don't know what I fucking look like. Unless I see a reflection, I don't know. So you need that self-awareness. You need to know, just because you think you did something, you spent $1,500 on a fucking pair of running shoes. You paid $1,500 for a pair of nice basketball shoes. That doesn't mean you can ball. And that's why, like, you need that self-critique and self-awareness. Nothing is easy. Everybody has their own limits and weaknesses to overcome. What's easy for one person might be hard for someone else. What's hard for one person might be easy for someone else. Quit or keep going and better yourself. That's always your two options. I think at some point, if I get knuckle tattoos, they'll be don't quit. DONTQUIT. And that's because, like, I do believe, like, you shouldn't quit. And, like, yeah, if you're in a bad relationship, unfortunately, you have to end it. You do have to quit. If you're at a bad job, you do have to quit. And that's to better yourself, but you still need that focus. If you just quit and stop doing something, yeah, don't stop, but don't expect if you tell someone you're quitting. And for anyone on the Patreon that thinks that this is about them, I posted something that was, I don't have time for people that don't want to better themselves. And that's because I've had like 7 conversations with 7 different people about them lying to themselves and lying to me. And I'm codependent. I think that's the word of, like, I will be overly helpful. I have something shared, and I'm 50-50 on shit like this. But when it's like signs of deep loneliness, 1, oversharing when there's someone to listen. This thing's over 20 minutes long. That check mark. Feeling like the disposable person in a group, check mark. Putting people's needs before your own, check mark. Feeling the need to be overly helpful or nice, check mark. Feeling isolated, like no one really sees you, check mark. Feeling like you don't belong anywhere, check mark. Becoming obsessed with friendships, check mark, check mark, check mark, check fucking mate. So, yeah, like, I understand this, and it is unfortunately, when you want to do something you've never done before, you have to change things. You have to do stuff you've never done before to accomplish stuff you've never done. Some friends you're not going to see as often as you were before because you're not going to be in the same place as often as you were. There's nothing wrong with taking a pause and realigning as long as you're still using energy to go forward in your life and bettering yourself and creating goals and focuses. Where the hell did those cop lights flash from? But yeah, I still believe, I heard this a few years ago, but success is a way to pay back everyone that ever helped or rooted for you. And there's so many people that root for you that you don't even know about. Bert Kreischer tells a story of how there was one of his fans that told him he's his guy. And Bert's like, thanks. He's like, no, do you know what that means? And it's like, no, it's like when I first heard you on Rogan's podcast, I was like, that's my guy. Every time Bert Kreischer wins, he gets a new stand-up special. He gets a new show. He moves to a bigger house. This dude who's at home, he wins because that's his guy. That's who he lives vicariously through. And that's how I see the patrons. That's how I see any of my followers, any of my friends that I talk to. Because I do see you guys as friends. Like, unfortunately, I'm not as available as I would want to be. But I don't want to have to sleep. I wish I could eat whatever the fuck I wanted. I wish I could lift heavier. I wish I looked better. But these are things of wanting versus what you can do, what you're in control of, what you're not in control of. It's easy to blame others. Like, oh, I didn't win this match because that dude politicked against me. I don't have this stage time because that bartender hates me. I don't have this thing because that supervisor hates me. Like, there's always a way to blame others, but go, okay, what can I do to improve myself? Once you think you deserve something somebody else has, or you're better than somebody else, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because it's one of those, like, I have such, like, self-esteem issues that I always think I'm less than. No matter how good or productive or whatever my content is, I still think that it's garbage. I still think it could be better. And I don't think that's a detriment. I think that's a strength. I don't think it's a weakness. I think it is a weakness to believe you're hot shit. I believe it is a weakness to think you can't improve. Because once again, if you're not at the top, if this isn't your full-time income, if you're not Tom Cruise, if you're not Roman Reigns, clearly you can improve somewhere. By the way, I wouldn't list like YouTubers or Twitch people, but I don't really watch it and shit like that. And I watch like mid-low guys. I watch like the independent versions of YouTube channels, like Adam the Woo and Justin Scarred and Defunctland and fucking Bright Sun Films. Like, that's the YouTube shit I watch and like subscription box openings. But you need to take responsibility and ownership of what you can fix to get better. And like, not comparing yourself. So like, staying in your lane, that doesn't mean don't question or offer different ways to do the thing that's always worked / been done one way. Don't fight the system. Show that the system is broken and there's better ways to do it. Treat people better. Give more opportunities. Have more representation. Have more women. Have more people of color. And especially as a white dude, how do I provide a platform for others without tearing down my own platform? Like, that's my constant struggle. But staying in your lane, it means don't question why someone has something you don't have. It's focusing on yourself, critiquing what you can do to further yourself. Don't quit doesn't mean not stopping pursuing a dream. It's about chasing new things constantly, using that energy to accomplish new things. You're going to have to do things you've never done before, which is like, that part is like a tweet I'm going to post eventually. But how do I put this? I already touched on some of those points. I'm sorry this is a little longer than normal. This will actually be a part of my solo podcast for This is Brendan also. But like, so there's a difference between comparing yourself and checking benchmarks and achievements that someone else had. Like, there's a game going around on social media right now, Wordle. So you can check like your Wordle fucking Wordle Squirtle, fucking Pokemon over here. But there's a way, like, you can see what that person did to accomplish it. And if it's unrealistic, because this dude is 7.5 feet fucking tall, you're not going to be able to do that. But if you know he trained somewhere, maybe you go train there. If this person told him advice, go do that. And like, I listen to so many podcasts. I listen to podcasts on business. Business Words is fucking great. I listen to podcasts on YouTube, the Creators Lab, I believe that's what it's called. I listen to a bunch of the ad-free shows, and those are all like mini seminars. Arn's podcasts are great. Jake Roberts and DDP have a great podcast now. Girl and JR are something to wrestle with, kind of like blur in of just being long. 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, he dropped so much knowledge on like the business side of wrestling, and that's where like I understand why I think differently in wrestling. And it's because I'm constantly thinking about wrestling. I'm inundated with wrestling. And it's funny because I say like I don't watch too much wrestling, and I mean like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, every indie show. But I watch what I want to watch. I watch older stuff, and because of Twitter, we have so much stuff we can watch. There's always ways to grow, and that's the benefit of 2022. Like, the two things, and this will be the last point that I leave it off on, but it comes down to, just because you can look up an ehow.com article or video of how to fix your toilet, that doesn't mean you're a plumber. And right now, we have a lot of people that think they're plumbers just because they know how to twist a knob. There is bliss in ignorance, but there's also gratefulness and appreciation for relying on other people to do stuff. If you're not good on editing, you can get someone to edit it for you. If you're not good in front of the camera, you could be behind the camera. There's no small parts, just small actors. That's how the world works. It runs because there's a gear system and everyone's there. I'll leave it on this note, I guess, as a quote, but every day is a gift. That's why they call it the present. And it's really hard sometimes to not get lost in the past and feel down about yourself. And then also get, like, delusional about the future and what will happen. Because at the end of the day, 150,000 people die every day. You're not one of those 150,000. Congratulations. And on that note, almost a half an hour, I apologize. And, like, look at that. I'm apologizing. But if you guys listen to this, you'll enjoy it. But yeah, don't compare yourself. Use people as roadmaps. We have the benefit of autobiographies, books, articles, etc. So have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Check down all the links down below. Instagram, Twitter, Holden Pro, Facebook, Brendan Caulfield, Holden Albright. You can find all that. Most importantly, patreon.com/Brendan C. This is Brendan on podcast services. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Just have fun. Stay safe, stay healthy. And I am truly grateful to be on a part of all of your pursuits of happiness, because that's the goal at the end of the day. Stay safe, everybody.